Before there was internet fraud and phone scams, there were always swindlers. Female swindlers too. Discover the stories of women from the past who not only survived but thrived as con artists and thieves. How did they use their feminine characteristics to swindle in a world where men made the rules? Join me, Lucy Worsley, historian and author, and my all-female team in Lady Swindlers, wherever you get your podcasts.
I'm Jason Alexander.
And I'm Peter Tilden.
And together, our mission
on the Really No Really podcast
is to get the true answers to life's baffling questions like
why the bathroom door doesn't go all the way to the floor, what's in the museum of failure, and does your dog truly love you? We have the answer.
Go to reallynoreally.com
and register to win $500, a guest spot on our podcast, or a limited edition signed Jason bobblehead. The Really No Really podcast.
Follow us on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
Hello. From Wonder Media Network, I'm Jenny Kaplan, and this is Womanica. This month, we're diving into the divas of history, examining how the label has been used with many angles, whether describing women pejoratively or with admiration.
Are you?
In the early 1990s, a teenage girl clicks on MTV, and a music video flickers on the television. A woman's face fills the black screen. Her head is shaved. Her eyes are a light hazel. As she croons about lost love, her agony seeps through the frame. Please welcome Sinéad O'Connor. Sinéad O'Connor was born in Dublin in 1966. Her parents separated when she was young, and her mother, Mary, was abusive. Mary regularly beat Sinéad, pinning her down on the ground as a picture of Pope John Paul II hung above them on the wall. Sinéad was a rebellious teenager who regularly shoplifted. As a result, she was sent to a rehabilitation center for fallen women, where she both witnessed and endured further abuses. Perhaps the only positive thing to come out of her time in the center was that one of the nuns there gifted Sinéad a guitar. Sinéad found solace in her music and writing. Just as her music career began to rise, her mother died in a car accident. As Sinéad cleaned out her mother's house, Sinéad took the photo of the Pope that had loomed over her childhood beatings. She knew that someday she wanted to destroy it. Now, 19 and on her own, she would no longer be held down. In 1987, Sinéad released her first full album, The Lion and the Cobra, which garnered industry buzz and a Grammy nomination. 3 years later, she caught her big break when she released her album, I Do Not Want What I Haven't Got. On it, Sinéad covered Prince's Nothing Compares to You and transformed the song into a soulful ballad. The song was a huge success, becoming the #1 single on the Billboard charts. The album sold millions of copies and received 4 Grammy nominations, winning for Best Alternative Album.
Ladies and gentlemen, that cute little lady with the bald head, Sinéad O'Connor. Go, baby, go!
On stage, everything about Sinéad felt bold. She wore anything from tutus to cropped leather jackets to combat boots, and sometimes no shoes at all. Sinéad's stage presence was a kick in the stomach. People loved it. With her newfound global platform, Sinéad became vocal about injustice and wasted no opportunity to have her political voice heard. She refused to have the Star-Spangled Banner play before any of her U.S. shows. She protested the Grammys for being materialistic. And then she made her biggest statement yet. In 1992, Sinéad performed on Saturday Night Live. Live, she sang War by Bob Marley a cappella on a dark stage, a single spotlight shining on her. When the song landed on the word evil, she pulled out her mother's old photo of Pope John Paul II and held it up for the camera. She ripped the photo in half down the middle and then into smaller pieces and said,
"Fight the real enemy."
The room stayed quiet. No one in the audience applauded. In interviews, Sinéad later explained she was protesting against the child abuse happening behind the closed doors of the Catholic Church. While allegations of abuse had started percolating in Ireland, this was nearly a decade before similar allegations would break through in America. The American public was shocked and angry and began boycotting Sinéad's music. SNL banned her for life, and musicians from Frank Sinatra to Madonna condemned and mocked her behavior. A protest broke out in Rockefeller Square where a bulldozer ran over hundreds of her albums. Sinead never apologized for her public protest. Rather, she later said, "If that's all I ever did on planet Earth, I'd be happy." Sinead never had a hit song or album in the United States again, but all this backlash did not deter her. She continued to release albums demonstrating her vocal range. She explored jazz, reggae, traditional Irish folk tunes, theological songs, pop songs. She never allowed herself to be creatively caged. And outside of the studio, Sinead kept fighting. She was often found in the streets at protests for abortion access, equal rights, against race discrimination, and for LGBTQ+ rights. She spoke out about mental health. Later in life, she converted to Islam. In 2021, she published a tell-all memoir called Rememberings. Sinead's impactful life and presence came to an abrupt end when, in 2023, she died at the age of 56. A survivor and in many ways ahead of her time, regardless of controversy, Sinead always lived life authentically. All month, we're talking about divas. For more information, find us on Facebook and Instagram at Womanica Podcast. Special thanks to Liz Kaplan, my favorite sister and co-creator. Talk to you tomorrow.
Before there was internet fraud and phone scams, there were always swindlers. Female swindlers too. Discover the stories of women from the past who not only survived but thrived as con artists and thieves. How did they use their feminine characteristics to swindle in a world where men made the rules? Join me, Lucy Worsley, historian and author, and my all-female team in Lady Swindlers, wherever you get your podcasts.
I'm Jason Alexander.
And I'm Peter Tilden.
And together, our mission
On the Really No Really podcast
is to get the true answers to life's baffling questions like,
why the bathroom door doesn't go all the way to the floor, what's in the museum of failure, and does your dog truly love you? We have the answer.
go to reallynoreally.com
And register to win $500, a guest spot on our podcast, or a limited edition signed Jason bobblehead. The Really No Really podcast.
Follow us on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.